A nun, a lawyer, and a businessman all walk into court. Sounds like the beginnings of a bad joke, right? Well, as far as I'm concerned, it is a joke. And you should think so too. That is, if you value the freedoms that were guaranteed to each and every one of us by the First Amendment of our Constitution. Freedom of religion, speech, free press, the right to assemble, and the right to petition our government. Well, when certain government officials get an idea in their heads that they believe that everyone should just automatically go along with because it is just such a brilliant idea, we have the beginnings of a bad joke. However, when they try to force those ideas on others by writing mandates that completely disregard our Constitution, that's when they get sued by a group of nuns. Crazy, right? What exactly could cause this timelessly peaceful group of ladies to do such a thing? Well, I'll tell you the answer. The Department of Health and Human Services trying to force these gracious servants of humanity into violating their consciences by forcing them to supply an abortifacient medication, more commonly known as the morning after pill or the abortion pill, to their employees. I have spent untold hours reading credible news-related articles from both liberal and conservative sources on these court cases. No matter how any of us personally feel about abortion, contraceptives, or religion, should not have any bearing on our opinion in this matter, because that is not the issue. Those subjects may be the vehicle that these cases traveled in on, but the road that they traveled on is one of the original 5 roads to freedom that were built for all of us to use. When certain government offices continue to put up barricades on those roads, we should all be concerned, because at the end of each of those roads lays a personal freedom that we all cherish. Freedom from an oppressive and overreaching government. When the Affordable Care Act became law on March 23, 2010, I don't think anyone could have imagined that within its pages was the makings of a political barricade that would block access to a fundamental right of freedom given to each of us by our Constitution. But there was. And today I want to explain to you why some citizens of this country have had to sue the Department of Health and Human Services to defend those rights. Over much party bickering, President Obama has tried to fix our healthcare system. Unfortunately, one of the positive solutions that he will be credited with is also the same solution that began this battle. For those of you who may not be familiar with this subject, I would like to explain a few things to you about the Affordable Care Act, commonly known as Obamacare. I will explain the specific wording in Obamacare that is in question, how it relates to religion, and some changes that have been proposed and requested to accommodate religious freedoms. As David Massey explains in his article, 5 Questions About the Contraception Mandate, written into the Affordable Care Act was a requirement that employers provide health insurance that offers female employees free contraception services. However, you may be wondering how this relates to the constitutional right to the freedom of religion. And that's a really good question. So this is a complicated issue, which I will try to answer with a 2-part answer. The first part of the answer is that the word contraceptive is a bit misleading. In this context, contraceptive refers to a variety of medications, one of which is the abortifacient medication called Plan B, also known as the morning after pill or the abortion pill. According to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, in their own definition of what is emergency contraception, if fertilization does occur, Plan B may prevent a fertilized egg from attaching to the womb. What this means is that if an egg has already been fertilized, the life within it will be eliminated by not allowing it to attach to the uterine wall. Secondly, if you believe in Christianity's teaching that life begins at conception, then this is akin to murder. Therefore, it is a serious violation of religious consciences, and thereby their freedom to practice their religion. After receiving some negative feedback, the Obama administration proposed an opt-out for religious nonprofits in February of 2013. Believing that this proposal did not address the concerns of citizens' rights to practice their religious beliefs, in July of 2013, a large group of faith leaders petitioned President Obama by asking him to expand his definition of who will be exempt. Realizing that he had made an oversight regarding freedom of religion in the Affordable Care Act, President Obama did try to correct his wrong when he offered the opt-out for religious nonprofits. However, this did not satisfy many within the broad faith community, because those who were excluded from the opt-out felt that their religious beliefs were not being respected, and so the Department of Health and Human Services is brought into court on violations of religious freedoms. In 1993, in response to cases involving violations of religious freedoms, President Clinton had signed into law the Religious Freedom Restoration Act of 1993. This is the basis for the legal arguments that Hobby Lobby, the Little Sisters of the Poor, and many others have prepared their cases on when filing suit against the HHS. The Religious Freedom Restoration Act of 1993 clearly states two important ground rules. It states that even if a law is enacted that applies to the general population, this Restoration Act prohibits any agency, department, or office of the United States or any state, the government, from substantially burdening a person's exercise of religion. There was one exception to this rule, which allowed for this violation to take place if the government could not only prove a compelling interest for the greater good, but also prove that there was no other way possible to provide such a service. Now, Hobby Lobby believed that there were numerous ways for our government to supply these benefits to the citizens of the U.S. So on this argument, with solutions for the matter in hand, they filed suit against the HHS in the lower courts in September of 2012. After numerous rulings and appeals on both sides, in November of 2013, the Supreme Court agreed to hear Hobby Lobby's case. And on June 30th, 2015, the Supreme Court ruled in favor of Hobby Lobby, citing the Restoration Act as their reasoning. Soon after Hobby Lobby had filed suit, an order of Catholic nuns called the Little Sisters of the Poor also filed suit against the HHS. They initially filed suit in September of 2012 in the lower courts because they were facing up to $7 million in fines annually if they did not comply with the HHS mandate. In November of 2014, the Supreme Court agreed to hear their case. In May of the following year, the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the Little Sisters of the Poor. In summary of the legal proceedings surrounding these cases, the HHS was in clear violation of our constitutional right to religious freedom. This was the foundation of the numerous cases filed against the HHS. I believe that these continuous court proceedings are costing every one of us a great deal of taxpayer dollars in legal fees, money that would be better spent on actual health care. Freedom is what our beloved country was founded on. When our government begins to chip away at that foundation, even if it does not directly affect you, it indirectly affects all of us. We should all be concerned when any of our constitutional freedoms are being taken away. The HHS has yet to come up with written guidelines for Obamacare that will keep our religious freedoms intact. This is why fellow citizens of our country are being forced into suing the HHS in order to defend those freedoms. The Supreme Court continues to rule in favor of these cases as they come before him. The ruling in the Little Sisters of the Poor was handed down from the Supreme Court on May 16th of 2016. This ruling was summed up in a release statement from the lawyers representing them, written by their office PR employee, Melinda Skia. As my closing thoughts, I would like to share some of those words with you now. The Supreme Court unanimously ruled that the government cannot fine the Little Sisters of the Poor. The Supreme Court vacated the lower court's rulings against the Little Sisters, accepting the government's admission that it could meet its goal of providing services to women without involving the Little Sisters. Thank you.